One of the most important things you need to understand about marriage is that it's going to take work. Good marriages don't just happen by accident. Good marriages are good because they're made up of two people who are continually working on their relationship with each other. Many times the reason a marriage is no longer good is because one or both of the spouses have stopped putting forth any effort. A good marriage doesn't just run on autopilot. It takes continual work from both spouses. When I went to college as a freshman, I didn't really go to college to learn. I went to college because that's just what you're supposed to do after you're done with high school. I went to college because there was a girl there that I wanted to date. I didn't go to college for any of the right reasons. I just wanted to say that I was in college. At the end of my first semester, my GPA was 1.3. I didn't put any time into studying. I didn't prepare for any tests. I would guess my way through everything. I didn't put any time into writing papers or any effort at all. I didn't put in any effort into learning or into passing my classes. I didn't want to actually have to do the work. I just wanted to have fun. I just wanted to make new friends and hang out. I wanted to play sports so I could say I was a college athlete. I wanted to have all the fun parts of college, but I didn't want to put in any of the work. Many times, we look at our marriage the same way as I looked at college. We want to enjoy all the fun things, but we don't want to put any effort into our relationship. Husbands, we want to enjoy the physical aspects of our wives, but we don't want to meet her emotional needs. Wives want to be cherished by their husbands, but don't want to meet his needs. And we tend to be more focused on what we can get rather than what we can give. We want to reap the rewards without putting in the work. I want to give you 3 things to start putting in the work that will help get you on the path to having the marriage of your dreams. Number 1 is your mindset. What is your mindset toward your marriage? What is your mindset toward your spouse? Chances are, if your marriage isn't great, your mindset about it isn't great either. I want you to start thinking about what you think about. What thoughts do you have toward your spouse? How do you view them in your mind? I used to spend so much time thinking about all the bad things about my wife that it completely consumed my thoughts. I would think to myself, I wish she would do this, or I wish she would act a certain way. And many times, the thoughts that I had about her weren't even actually real because they were thoughts that I came up with based on my feelings. They weren't based on facts. I was so concerned with how I felt that I wasn't concerned with meeting her needs. Imagine if I was just as hard on myself as I was on my wife. What would I recognize? What would I see that needs to change? I started to evaluate my actions towards my wife, and what I realized is that I had a whole lot that needed to change if I was going to be the husband that she needed. When we start to work on our mindset, we start to realize that what we think about determines how we act. Proverbs 4:23 says, "Keep thy heart with all diligence, for out of it are the issues of life." We need to guard our hearts. We need to guard our thoughts because the issues that we deal with in our marriages start in our mindset. What you think about will determine how you behave. Your thoughts will determine how you treat your spouse. Do you think your spouse is ignorant or immature? If you think that about them, then that's how you're going to treat them. And no spouse wants to be treated that way. No matter what you think of them, you're going to treat them according to your thoughts. The best way to start to work on your mindset is to do exactly what Paul says in Philippians 4:8. He says, "Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report. If there be any virtue, and if there be any praise, think on these things." I want you to take an inventory of the thoughts that you have towards your spouse and compare them to this verse and see if they're true and honest, just, pure, lovely, and of good report. If they're not, you need to change your thoughts towards your spouse. It's not hard to find fault in anyone if you look hard enough. But it's just as easy to find the good in someone if you're looking just as hard. Find things about your spouse that fit with everything that Paul mentioned in this verse and dwell on them. One of the most helpful things I've ever heard in addressing my thoughts towards my wife was to start thinking of her the way God does. God loves her with the purest love, and she is his daughter. He is her perfect loving father. When I think of my wife this way, it completely changes negative thoughts to positive thoughts. Hateful thoughts are overcome with loving thoughts. She's not just my wife. She is a gift from God, and she's a child of the King. Make sure that the way that you think about your spouse is the way that God thinks about them. The second area to start putting in the work in your marriage is communication. I've seen so many couples who hardly communicate at all, and it slowly destroys their marriage. There's also couples who communicate all the time, but their communication is filled with bitterness and hatred. In order to communicate in an effective, loving manner, you need to be aware of all aspects of communication. In 1971, Albert Mehrabian, who is a psychology professor at the University of California, Los Angeles, laid out a concept about communication. And he said that 7% of meaning is communicated through spoken word, 38% through tone of voice, and 55% through body language. Communication isn't just simply speaking words. The tone we speak in and the body language we use is even more important than the words that we use. Have you ever heard your spouse compliment you in a tone that just seemed as if they were just doing it out of duty or out of habit? You probably didn't feel very complimented at all. Maybe you can think about a time when they said something nice, but the look on their face said otherwise. Words matter, but tone and body language matter even more. For many couples, it doesn't even get to the point of communication because they aren't communicating at all. They go days without ever connecting. They don't talk about life. They don't share their thoughts and feelings with each other. They don't talk about life decisions and desires. They just aren't on the same page because they don't communicate. And it eventually gets to the point, it gets so bad that they just feel like roommates. Communication is an absolute must if you want to have a strong, happy marriage. It is a vital part of intimacy. Many people think of intimacy as just physical. But when you are intimate with someone, you are telling them, "Into me see." You share your thoughts and your feelings and your desires with them. You share your concerns and your worries and your fears. Every single aspect of your life is shared with them. Communication does not just involve speaking either. You have to learn to listen as well. No one wants to feel like they're talking to a wall. You need to listen and be engaged as your spouse is talking to you. In today's day and age, it's so easy to be distracted by so many things. It's easier to be distracted than to listen. Our phones, our TV, among many other things, can distract us while we're trying to have a conversation with our spouse, or they're trying to have a conversation with us. Find time, make time, put forth an effort to communicate with your spouse. You want to have open and honest communication, and you want to do it in a loving manner. Your words, your tone, your body language are all a part of your communication. And when you make an effort to become a good communicator, your spouse is going to see that you love them and that you're willing to put in the work to have the marriage of your dreams. The third and final area to start putting in the work in your marriage is dating your spouse. Many couples don't go on dates anymore after they get married, and it can become tragic to your marriage. Jordan Peterson, who's a clinical psychologist, said that at a minimum, couples should date at least one time a week if they don't want things to deteriorate. My wife and I like to go on a date. We actually have what we call date day. We take an entire day devoted to dating each other. Now, I understand that not everyone can take an entire day and have a date day like we do, and sometimes we can't either. It's just not always possible. But it's been such a wonderful thing in our relationship, and we look forward to date day every single week. But before you ever go on a date, you need to make sure you have a positive mindset about your spouse and that you're going to communicate fully and in a loving manner. One of a husband's greatest needs is respect. And one of a wife's greatest needs is open and honest communication. You need to make sure that going into the date, you're ready to meet these needs for each other. Sometimes maybe all you have time to do is grab dinner. And there's nothing wrong with that. If you can do more, that's even better. My wife and I like to take turns planning the dates. We like to see how creative we can be. But when we plan the date, we plan it for each other. Husbands, if you're asking your wife to go out with you, you need to plan the date for her. And wives, if you're asking your husband to go out with you, you need to plan the date for him. But whatever you do, when you go on a date, you want to make sure that you're having fun with each other and enjoying each other's company. Another one of a husband's greatest needs is friendship with his wife. Dating is a great way to help wives accomplish this. And another one of wives' greatest needs is soft, non-sexual affection. While we really want to be doing this all the time, it is a great time to practice this on our dates. Remember, you're giving yourself to them. When each spouse gives themselves to each other, both will feel loved and fulfilled at the end of the date. Incorporate dating into your weekly routine. You want to make it something that is part of your life. It's part of your routine. It's a habit that you formed. Make it a priority in your marriage. Don't be lazy about it. Don't let it become mundane. Make sure it's something that you both look forward to every single week. As I stated at the beginning, one of the most important things that you need to know about marriage is that it's going to take work. So you need to put in the work to have the right mindset about your spouse. Put in the work to have effective, loving communication with your spouse. Put in the work to date your spouse on a regular basis. We all want the marriage of our dreams. We all want to live the happily ever after with our spouse. But it's never going to happen by chance. It will always take work. Marriage only works when you work at it.